We are here once again. Like we tell you every time, please subscribe and share. Today, I'm hosting somebody so special to me. In her capacity, she's a sister. She's been and continues to be an amazing wife. She's a mother. She's an aunt. She's a friend. She's a canon in the Anglican Church of Uganda, a community leader, and Kaaka, which is a special name that means grandmother. Full names, Canon Kaaka Jole Valiukam. Welcome to our channel, Kaaka Jole. Please tell our audience, who is Kaaka Jole?
Well, interesting enough, Kaaka Jole is a grandmother. As you had already described to me, I just love taking care of grandmothers, particularly the vulnerable grandmothers. I volunteer with the Grandmothers of Bunyaka AIDS Foundation, but I also work as a chairperson for the National Grandmothers Consortium, whereby we have 6 groups that are being supported by Stephen Lewis Foundation in different districts, and we coordinate and advocate for the rights of grandmothers.
Very, very good. Big background on how we would like, since I described you as a wife and we know your husband, rest in peace, has passed away. Take us back to your younger days as a youth and how you and your husband met.
Our homes were just 2 miles away from each other. He was at the university and I was at school, and we met and we related for 6 good years before we got married. And our homes were not far from each other. So we got to know each other because of the homes that were near, and also meeting as students because we had an association for students for Rukunjiri Diocese, Rukunjiri District.
So that's how you met. You had how many children? Biological? And I know you went beyond the biological children. You have so many. Please talk about them. And you can even tell the audience the other one is adopted through Nyaka in hundreds of thousands. They adopted, and the biological, the adopted, and the ones you raised in your home. And what made you and your husband really taking so many children at that time?
Well, to start with, God blessed us with 5 biological children. And we thought those were enough to take care of. But we had a lot of friends who were very close friends. And unfortunately, those friends passed on due to HIV/AIDS. And we realized that these children, some of the friends, these children actually, one pair was taken back into that village called Kahondo. And they were there without nobody taking care of them. So that was, one of them was friends, but others were relatives. My sisters and brothers also passed on and left children. And my mother was very old, so she was not able to take care of them. So me and my husband prayed, and God really gave us the grace as taking these children. So besides our 5 biological children, at one time we had 15 children in the house. But then there are more children that we took care of who were not living with us, but we were paying school fees for them and offering counseling and mentoring and being there for them as parents.
Yes.
And I can't tell the numbers, but there are more than 30. And then when I was at church at All Saints Cathedral, I raised many youths who are also big people now, that I mentored and took care of, both spiritually and emotionally, and were able to support them in one way or another. So actually, I'm a mother of so many. I can't tell the number of children that I have, but I praise God for that.
That's very good. And among those biological children, Kaaka Jole, I'm going to take us to something that we both share, which is grieving and loss of loved ones. You know me so well. You have known me for a very long time. Consider you a mother, a grandmother. The loss of your son, Andrew, a friend, a good man, hardworking, dedicated. When this loss happened, I've told this story so many times, but I want us to have it on a record. Emma, your biological child, was already volunteering with Nyaka, working as the chair of the board in Uganda, volunteering, going to Nyaka, seeing the children, and then she had seen a number of grandmothers we are working with. And as a result of the loss, and I say this because when Jim McCarter endorsed the book, he said, I turned tragedy into hope for others. You decided to turn your tragedy of the loss of your own biological son into hope for the grandmothers of Nyaka who had also lost so many. And you applied your skills through the church of counseling, your faith of don't leave the orphans and widows. That's the true religion according to James, the book in the Bible. And you took faith into action, which we would like to encourage people to take that example and not only sing hallelujahs on Christmas and Easter, but look deep into their communities and put faith into action. Tell us about that journey of grief and hope you have instilled in Nyaka grandmothers and grandmothers now of the world, since you are even wearing the grandmother's uniform this morning on this channel.
Well, very interesting enough, when Andrew passed on, it was a very, very devastating time. Yes. And going through stages of grief were very difficult. At one time, I was angry. Another time, I was in denial. Another time, I didn't know what to say and what to do. But finally, when I passed through all the stages, I just looked back and looked at all these grandmothers that have lost their children, not only one. For me, God has been gracious. I lost one, but I still had others. But there are some grandmothers who lost all the children and had a lot of grandchildren to take care of. So I decided, I said, now I think I better turn to these grandmothers and offer them counsel and comfort and training and bring them to board to accept situations and live and move on. And I'm happy they have done it. We have done it.
You have done it, and you've done it beyond. You know how we say we turn the mustard seed into, we planted a mustard seed, and the mustard seed has done so many. This is President Yoweri Museveni's book, The Mustard Seed, who you've met and went to the State House wearing the grandmother's uniform. So
yes, I
sure President Museveni sees this recording, since he already supports grandmothers. We make sure the former prime ministers, Amama Mbabazi, whose auntie is actually in the program, Hakana Rugunda, who knows about this program, and during his time as the prime minister is when they launched the grandmothers elderly projects on every district in Uganda, which we will get into. But you've touched on how the loss of your own propelled you to get involved in other grandmothers' lives. Once you got involved, from your own words, tell us about Nyaka grandmothers and how even that uniform came to be the uniform they wear. We will add pictures of grandmothers marching in millions and millions, wearing their uniform with dignity. Emphasis, you can even see I raised my voice with dignity. The work we have done, Kaaka, is not to look at the poverty levels, at the denial and grief and everything that happens in their lives, and just say, here, let's throw some money at you and hope the problem goes on. We've made sure that these grandmothers are dignified. They are cleaned up. They have their hair done. They make sure if they live in the most dirty house and cow dung smeared, they can sweep it and wash their plates and serve their children on a clean plate. Tell us about your visit with these grandmothers in your own words, and really tell the world about it. When I say they think I'm just praising grandmothers, I started, but we want to hear it from you in this Women Month, leading to celebrating women on March 8th. We'll celebrate women every day of the year. But since this is dedicated to it, as we celebrate women, please tell us about the grandmothers, what you have seen, what you have done with them, and what the world should know about these grandmothers.
The grandmothers were very, very much neglected in the society. You know, in some areas, they are called witches. Where there is a grandmother, they talk of that old witch. And these grandmothers actually, the very unsung heroes because of the work that they do. So when I first visited them, I found them in a very difficult situation. You'd find a grandmother with grandchildren in a house that is leaking, without a pit latrine, without a kitchen, and sometimes even without food. And just wonder how the grandmother is surviving with these grandchildren. And yet we'd find some of the surrounding environment is in a much better position, and nobody is caring for these grandmothers. I want to appreciate in Nyaka how it came up with a project of grandmothers, that we take care of the grandmothers. And one of the things that we did was training them to gain their self-confidence and self-esteem, because most of them didn't want to appear in the public.
Yes.
So that was the first thing. Another thing was training them to be good caregivers of their grandchildren, with different skills of, parenting skills, food security, hygiene, and so forth. And then one other thing was training them about HIV/AIDS, because most of these grandmothers, unfortunately, some of them had grandchildren who are HIV positive, which the children contracted from the parents before they passed on. So we discovered some of the grandmothers didn't know anything about AIDS, HIV/AIDS, and they kept the children at home without even taking them to school and taking them to the hospital and to get the medication they needed.
Yes.
But we also trained them to be change agents, in that once they themselves are changed, they're able to change and impact in the community. And one other thing was there was the revolving fund for them. Most of the grandmothers were able, but didn't have any source of income. So the revolving fund that came into their lives helped them to change their lifestyles and improve the income. And even at home, they were able to take care of the grandchildren in a better position. Then, we became so proud because of the training, and it was a real good teamwork with the grandmothers. Then we came up with this uniform. We said, no, we need to be identified because of the immense work we are doing in the community. We need to be identified because of the immense work. And I want to tell you, grandmothers are doing a lot of work. Even after training them to gain self-confidence and self-esteem, some of them even joined politics. Some of the grandmothers are even LC1 chairpersons, LC2. They have joined, and councillors. They've joined politics, and they are doing very well. Others have joined what we call village health trainers, VHTs.
Yes.
And they've trained, yes. So some of them are part of that thing. And others have joined NADS, and they try to get, seeds and other agricultural implements and skills to improve their lifestyles and livelihood. So I want to say I'm very proud of the Nyaka grandmothers. As I talk now, we used to call them unseen heroes, but they are really heroes in their own way. And I know they are very proud. And when they gather together, you can see the joy on their faces. And that's the most important thing, particularly with taking care of the children, and also Nyaka School offering education for the grandchildren, also give them a relief. But on top of that, also seeing that children are growing up to be better citizens. And I'm happy about that.
Wonderful. Thank you. You've gone in the depth of telling us more about the grandmothers. Ladies and gentlemen, when we started this program, formerly in 2007, the grandmothers were raising children who are coming just a little bit back. When Nyaka schools began, I went house to house to the neighboring grandmothers near my parents' house, including my mother, and asked women to house children who were walking distances from far away. When we built a secondary school in Kutamba, we did the same thing, and this resulted into women allowing children they are not related to live in their homes. The United States of America, it's called foster children. But you have to sign papers, you have to be verified, you have to do all this. We adopted a system, but adapted it to the conditions of our villages. I, myself, and Nyaka community didn't want to build an orphanage, which now we ended up having these women raise children, and these women have grown from the ones who were hosting children coming to Nyaka and Kutamba to now 3 districts of Kanungu, Rukunjiri, and Rubanda recently. We have data points, Kaaka Jole, where we hired the monitoring and evaluation expert who has gone in these communities and looked at the grandmother before they came to Nyaka, especially the ones in Rubanda and Rukunjiri. With Kanungu, we didn't have all that expertise. And now we can look at when we started with you. How was your nutrition and how is it now? Huge improvement. How was your hygiene? Clean water, living conditions, but most importantly, we use World Bank statistics to measure poverty levels. $3,500 shillings was not possible for these grandmothers through our microfinance. We now have these women earning 4 times, $4 to $5 a week. Some of our grandmothers are now earning more than teachers we employ at Nyaka Primary School or Kutamba Primary School. Some are employing their husbands, something I never thought I would ever see. And some own borders. We have begun now to face problems we never thought grandmothers would have, which is they eat very good because they think eating very good also means eating fried food and more meat and more stuff. So soon I will take Dr. Kasenene to Nyaka to train them on now how to balance. You will have money, but how do you balance sugar? We're beginning to see diabetes increase. It's a problem that comes with when people don't know how to balance the food and eat one side of food. It's a problem to have. I'd rather have them out of poverty first and teach them how to balance food. So we have microfinance, we have built houses, we food security, you've taken trainers in health, you've made them change agents, they've joined politics. During COVID-19, our grandmothers were on the forefront of wearing masks. The government needs to hear this. We executed masks before the government mandated them. We put these grandmothers on radio and they sensitized the community on why everyone needs to be vaccinated. We were the leaders in the vaccination at the clinics. So this has all come because of your dedication, your hard work, your encouragement of these grandmothers. They continue to grow. What would you love to see happen? Now we've covered Kanungu, Rukunjiri, and Rubanda. You and I have talked off the phone about our dream of wanting to see grandmothers in every district in Uganda. But even before that happens, you had told me your wish you would love to see in Uganda happen in your lifetime is for grandmothers to do what? What if the president said, now Kaaka Jole, since I've seen your uniform, your hair is blonde, you shining and smiling, tell me your wish and the government will give you a hand. I am not saying we need to ask the government to do it, but do much of this work. We have to collaborate with the government, international NGOs, and use this model. What would you ask those 3 actors to do for grandmothers?
Well, interesting enough, this grandmother's uniform has been to State House. It was on World Elders Day that we went. We were only 20 of us, and I was asked to pray. And he really noticed my uniform, and he came closer to me and asked me and read. So the Nyaka grandmothers, and I told him what we do. I actually asked him if we could have time to meet him, and he promised, but it's a lot of bureaucracy to reach him and a lot of protocol to reach him. I wish one time you would see this audio and think about the grandmothers. But one thing I would want the government to think about is, one, if we could have an opportunity to make sure that all grandmothers throughout the country, we have some groups. Because right now we have only a small group in Jinja, in Buyikwe, in Mokono, in Raka, in Masaka, in Ruwero, and then Kanungu, Rukunjiri, Ruchiga, but very few. Now, what I'm talking about is all these other districts, a very small group of grandmothers being supported by Stephen Lewis, but it's not a big, huge number of grandmothers of over 20,000 like Nyaka has done, because Nyaka has covered all the 3 districts, but these ones are just covering a small portion of the districts, not covering all. So I would love to see really a group of grandmothers in every district. Actually, in 2015, when we had the grandmothers gathering, we were able to pick different grandmothers in different districts, and they all had something to continue on advocacy and on training and on support. So I would wish that government would come in to support the grandmothers, because the grandmothers are doing a big thing for the government, raising all these grandmothers or grandchildren. So one other thing I would love the government to do is really look into the rights. The rights of the grandmothers are being abused. A lot of land grabbing from the grandmothers, because they feel and unfortunately the grandmothers don't have the will, don't have land titles, and so they are being, abused. There are a lot of domestic violence and gender-based violence against the grandmothers. I wish the government could look into this. But one other thing is the health sector. Grandmothers walk long distances to health centers, and when they reach there, they don't find this medicine for non-communicable diseases, like medicine for diabetes and pressure. So one other thing we are actually advocating for is to get a special desk, a line on every health center for the elderly people, so that when they come, they find where to sit, they line up, they have somebody take care of them, and not only give them medicine and treatment, but even counsel them. Because most of them go there when they are not actually sick, but they are stressed. By the time they test them, they find they don't have any issues with their bodies, but they're stressed. So we are praying and hoping that we can try to advocate for their rights in different forms.
All right, the President of Uganda, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, you've heard. This is the grandmothers who are advocating and also appealing to you. And by the way, Mama Janet, the wife of the president, is a grandmother multiple times. So what I'm going to ask you, Kaaka Joy, is to prepare a uniform for Mama Janet. And I say that word Mama Janet with honor, because my mother was called Janet Kaguri and she wore that uniform. Let's get a uniform to Mama Janet Kaguta Museveni, the First Lady of Uganda and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, and get her that uniform. We can pass it through our friend Susan Muhwezi and Jim Muhwezi, Honorable Jim Muhwezi, who are good friends and also have seen and participated in Grandmothers. Quick announcement, Kaaka Joy, on July 21, this year, we are going to have a walk against gender-based violence in Rukunjiri town. So please alert Honorable Jim Muhwezi. This is what reminded me of that. And this is a walk we do every year, for those of you who don't know, because when we have grandmothers, we also have the aspect of fighting against gender-based violence. Our communities, since 2015, we found out our girls walking to school, a girl had been raped, and we started a program to fight against rape, and we expanded it to fight against gender-based violence, which also brings sensitization on women's rights and girls' rights. But we also work with men and young people to make sure this happens. So on July 21, special announcement, we look in the camera and invite everybody. During that time, we will open a healing center at Kebison Health Center. If you didn't know, now you know Kebison is right. Your home. Please start letting those grandmothers of ours. I will be there. We will announce the guest of honor, who we can't say now for security reasons. We will open a health center. We know your son, Colin, is leading an effort to build a health center in honor of Andrew, which is nearby Kebison. Some people can even walk there and see that. So We are going to work together to do this. And since I'm recording this from Harvard University in Boston, I must also emphasize that I am looking out for professors and practitioners and students who are willing to make a case study, write a case study that can be used here at Harvard University now and always about what we have done. Kaaka, what we've done is transform the community, working with women from zero up. Businesses always can get millions of dollars and throw it in a refugee camp. We've built a community that continues to grow. Right now, there are more than 54 districts in Uganda. I pledge to you that I will work as much as I can to get these districts to honor your wish and get groups there. Ilana Linsberg Lewis, our friend and advocate, has come to this channel and we have recorded our segment. We both have this passion. On this Women's Day, Women's Month, we promise to work together with her personally, with me personally, and with you personally, and whoever also wants to join us to make sure that we have grandmothers groups in every rural district. We have already, as Nyaka organization, started one in Mpigi, working with Child's Eye Foundation. We've already signed an agreement that work. Vian, your grandson Vian, praying matchmaker, is the one who understands how we did it in Nyaka, is working with Child's Eye Foundation to do it in Mpigi. When you see him, give him a big jumbo. You are amazing Jennifer Nantali, who has led efforts, whose mother has that uniform. My mother wears that uniform. Our former ambassador, Deborah Marak, who served in Uganda and went and visited grandmothers in Uganda, a grandmother herself. The current ambassador, USA ambassador, Natalie Brown, are all committed to this. So we are going to put together a team, which means the loop that is 3 strands as tight, and we will do this for grandmothers.
Great.
We go to grandmothers. We are coming to the conclusion of this because we want it to be short and precise so more people can listen to it. We have taken grandmothers from Nyakajezi, Mantrida, Frida, Leonarda, and took them to Toronto to meet other grandmothers. You've talked about the gathering of grandmothers in Uganda, but I want you to, in your own words, to please look in the camera and tell women and young girls who are listening what it means to be an independent thinker, an empowered woman who makes choices and who can build our communities. Because let me tell you why I ask you this question. I've talked to young girls who say, but my mother said it is okay. But my grandmother said it is okay. And what am I talking about is okay. A girl has been raped. She doesn't want to report the crime because the perpetrator said they will give the goat to the grandmother. And the ignorance of the grandmother or the fear of the powers that be, mom said it is okay, I don't have to say it. Grandmother said it is okay, which brings a bottleneck for us who are fighting for the rights of these children because they listen to their mentors who are their moms or their grandmothers. Talk to the women as we conclude. Give them advice. Encourage them. Then we'll close with a prayer. And I am so pleased to have you, to have a grandmother who can speak on behalf of others. When we meet in July at the walk, we will record a live YouTube video with thousands and thousands of grandmothers, and the world will see what a transformational work we've done with these grandmothers. And we will for sure put this thing, I always say the best is yet to come. In so many communities, the best has already come, but we know with God, there's so much more to do and nothing is impossible.
Now, one thing I want to talk to the women is, I want to ask women, those who are able to support fellow women. You know, there are times when sometimes we women who tear down fellow women. And sometimes there are some well-to-do women that despise the grandmothers. And yet these grandmothers are very valuable and they need us. So I would like to appreciate every woman to take care of the grandmothers, support the grandmothers in every way. But at the same time, in order to gain self-confidence, send your children to school. I think sending children to school is very important, that you have your daughter trained and knows what to do. And also creating awareness about all these devices that really affect grandmothers and our children, especially issues of gender-based violence. We need to really advocate and talk more about gender-based violence. And in training, actually in my training with the grandmothers, we talk about it very much. And we tell them to go back. And I'm happy that there is that section at TJK that deals with gender-based violence. And so I'm asking all the ladies, please, those who are not yet grandmothers, you are coming. But those who are already grandmothers and you're in a better position like me, please do take care of the grandmothers that are vulnerable, because we need each other. And there is nothing wrong identifying with a vulnerable grandmother, because God will bless you. I want to thank God that because I have been able to identify with these vulnerable grandmothers, God has been gracious. I don't have a grandchild that I stay with at home. I still have my children taking care of their own children. They only come to visit. And so when I visit these grandmothers, sit with them, identify with them, eat with them, counsel with them, laugh with them, put a smile on their face, I feel so happy. I wish every other woman can do it.
Wonderful. And you've done a great job. You are one of your grandchildren. Fun fact, one of your grandchildren was born in my house in Michigan. Salama, Sydney, and Sonia, please listen to grandmother. Take her advice. She has seen so much. When Tess and Talia, my daughters, listened to this, you've been to the house, you've seen them, you've carried them since they were babies. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have responsibility to take care of women, to take care of girls, to advocate for the rights. Does not take away your manhood for a man to stand and advocate for girls in your community. They need underwear, they need sanitary products, and these are things we can do. A privilege today to have you, Kaaka, join. Thank you for being an outstanding mother, an outstanding grandmother, and a pillar that we continue to lean on as we continue to advocate for women, and especially in this 2023. We should not be having a conversation of a grandmother who is living in poverty when we have all these grandmothers around the world who are driving and living in mansions. So an appeal to you, grandmothers in the United States, Canada, and all over the world. We want to pair you with your sisters in rural areas of the world so they can also experience the joy of being grandmothers without worrying what they are going to feed their grandchildren. Thank you very much. And Kaaka Jory, please, last word and a short prayer so God can continue guiding all of us in the work we do.
Well, the last word is I want to appreciate Stephen Lewis Foundation and all other organizations that have supported the grandmothers in Uganda. Not only Nyaka, but all the other groups as well.
And the entire continent. The entire continent.
And the entire continent, because I know we have grandmothers in Kenya, in South Africa, Swaziland, everywhere. So I'd like to appreciate the support they've given the grandmothers, the smile they put on their faces, the shelter they put on their head, the food they put on their plate, and the school fees that they put for the children to go to school. I really want to appreciate, and may God bless them all. And I just want to say a praise like, may God bless them, may God give them long life, and may God take care of every situation that is around them. All in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. And that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Continue to share, continue to subscribe, and we know the best is yet to come. Continue to come on this channel. We will bring you the best we can, free knowledge, experts in so many different areas. Happy Women's Month. Happy Women's Day. May we continue to serve and dedicate ourselves for service.